Where are we now? 3 o'clock hour. We got Samsung here. We're going to go over the residential lineup of products. We have Jonathan Franklin here, who is the home entertainment trainer on the residential side. Really happy to have him here to go over all of the products and solutions from Samsung. If you also can check out their virtual booth. They are one of our platinum sponsors. So check that out for additional points for products at the end of the show. Have any questions, please go ahead and put that into the Q&A. That would be great. And we are actually going to be raffling off what a sound tower looks like. So we'll be giving away a Samsung Bluetooth speaker to one of the participants that asks a question and takes the poll. We have a couple poll questions that I'm gonna put up there about the service portal that I think will be very useful to you guys. I can cover that at the end. But Jonathan, really appreciate you being here and being a part of the 2024 virtual roadshow.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, so just a couple quick housekeeping things. So I do have the chat and Q&A up in front of me. So if anybody has questions along the way, I will try to answer everything that I can live on the fly. So
well, I'll also help you with that as well. So if we need it,
perfect. So we'll kind of both have that two-prong attack. So well, welcome. As Mark mentioned, I'm Jonathan Franklin from the Home Entertainment training team, and we've got a lot to cover. So over the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to cover just about everything that's in our TV and audio portfolio on the residential side. So let's take a look at what that portfolio looks like. And wouldn't you believe it? This isn't even it. This isn't everything that's not like this doesn't represent, you know, the majority of our lineup. We have way more than this. Let's talk about our flagship micro LED. We're going to talk about that for a couple moments. We'll talk about our Neo QLED 8K TVs. Yeah, 8K in 2024, it's still a thing, and there's still a really valuable use case for it. We'll talk about that. Our Neo QLED 4K lineup. We've got 3 different models, one of which is exclusive to the custom installation channel. So we'll address those, as well as our OLED models. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the middle of that slide that you see there. We're going to spend a good amount of time talking about Neo and OLED. We'll touch on QLED 4K for just a couple moments. And with Crystal UHD, I'm only going to mention one model. These are kind of our value-oriented TVs. We do sell a decent volume of them, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about those, with the exception of the DU9000 in just a few moments. Now, what about lifestyle TVs? Well, I like to joke that, Samsung kind of created this whole idea of the lifestyle TV category. I grew up in a household that, we had a console TV. TVs used to be furniture. That's how you got to blend into your space. Well, how does that change when your TV becomes flat and 65, 75, 85 inches? How are you going to hide that black rectangle on the wall? Well, you turn it into a work of art like the frame. We've also got other purpose-built solutions like the Terrace or outdoor TV. The Sero and the Seraph we're not going to discuss today, but we will talk about some brand new enhancements to the Premiere this year, and we'll also touch on the Freestyle. But before we talk about any Samsung product, let's talk about some areas where Samsung has been winning. Now, Samsung, we've been the #1 TV brand globally for 18 years in a row. And right now it's trending that we're going to be 19. So we're looking pretty good there. We've also been #1 in soundbar globally for 10 years running. Also #1 in overall quality from the American Customer Satisfaction Index. So, we actually find that roughly 83% of consumers find these stats to be meaningful, and it's something that can actually build upon purchase driving decisions. So definitely something to bring up with your clients. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about is the why Samsung difference, because let's face it, we're kind of at a point where a lot of our competitors, they make cool stuff. We all make really great stuff, and picture quality is pretty awesome across the board. Not just with Samsung, but with competing brands too. So now we're at a point where we're differentiating ourselves from an experience standpoint. Let's start by talking about AI upscaling. We're going to talk about Samsung's latest processor and the things that we're doing to give you the best upscaling possible. We'll talk about endless content for just a couple moments here. Every single Samsung TV is going to have Samsung TV Plus built in with over 400 channels of live TV, thousands of pieces of on-demand content. And that's kind of a big deal. We're at a point where people are cutting the cord. Not only that, they're cutting off their subscription services because they're tired of, the bill keeps going up for, whether it's Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, everyone's raising prices. Well, we've got plenty of free ad-supported TV for all of our end users. Connectivity. You can now use your SmartThings enabled TV. Everything from the Q60 and up has SmartThings built in with a Zigbee and Matter and Thread controller. So all of those smart home devices that you have, you can now control them directly from your TV. Planet and people, we've got a huge dedication to sustainability. Everything from our AI energy mode to our solar cell remote, which is going to keep over 200 million AAA batteries from entering landfills. It's all part of our sustainability efforts. And then security. This is a big deal. I want to kind of put a pin in this for a second because, if you had asked me 3 or 4 years ago, do I have to worry about my TV being hacked? I would have laughed and said, no, that's not a thing. Nobody's hacking TVs. I was wrong. Apparently, people are hacking TVs, and this is a real thing that's happened. Over the last 3 months, there's been several reports of multiple TV brands that have had major security breaches, one of which resulted in over 570,000 people's information being leaked, including billing information. There was another one that this TV opened up a back door to your home network. That's a bad situation. So you're not going to run into that with Samsung TVs because we use the same Knox security chipset that we have in all of our Department of Defense grade equipment. We're actually a DoD contractor. We use that exact same chip in our TVs. Is it overkill? You might argue yes, but we make the chip ourselves. We're one of the world's largest semiconductor manufacturers, so it doesn't cost us anything extra to put it in there. So why not give our customers the best? All right, so let's talk about some new stuff with super-sized TVs. Everyone's going for these larger and larger screen sizes. Man, I remember it wasn't that long ago when I got it feels like it wasn't that long ago. My first big screen TV, I'm going to say in air quotes, was like a 47-inch TV, and I thought I was just so cool. And then I slowly upgraded to 55, 65. Now 75 is kind of the thing, but we're seeing a big trend towards super big TVs. This year, we've got 4 different options, right? So we have our Neo QLED 8K, the Q990C is available. We have the Neo QLED 4K, the QN90D is available. We have the Q80C available and the DU9000 if anybody wants a 98-inch TV at a really competitive price point. So 4 different options to outfit consumers with 98-inch displays. So why is this happening? Well, people are wanting these larger cinematic experiences. Now, ultimately, the THX formula, some of you may know, some of you may not. I'm just going to share it here. So it shrinks down by a factor of 10. It's really easy to remember. So if you want to have a cinematic viewing experience, let's say you got a 55-inch TV. You want to sit about 5.5 feet back or less. If you're sitting more than 5.5 feet back, well, you're going to need a bigger TV. Let's say you're sitting 7 feet back. You want a 70-inch TV. 7.5 feet back. You want a 75-inch TV. See where I'm going with this, right? It's just a factor of 10. So what's happening is people are getting these, open concept living spaces. They're sitting further back, but they're not upgrading their TVs. Well, if you upgrade your TV to something like a 98-inch display, now you can maintain that cinematic feel even from a 10-foot viewing distance. So that's a big perk. Now, what if 98 inches isn't enough? We've got a solution for you. Our micro LED TV. This is a super luxurious TV. It's a 114-inch display. We're actually going to have a couple different models. We have a 114, a 101, and an 89. Now, how is micro LED different? Well, this is literally the same technology that you see in the video boards that are inside, football stadiums and pro sports stadiums. Every single LED, every single pixel on these displays is made up of 3 tiny LEDs. So you figure in a 4K picture, 8.3 million pixels, right? That means that you've got 3 LEDs to make up all of those pixels. You're staring directly at 25 million LEDs that have been smushed together to create this amazing display. I like to joke that it's kind of like our bug zapper. When we have this at trade shows, people just gravitate towards it. It is stunning. Now, because it's a sapphire-based backplane, these are not organic LEDs. There's no risk of burn-in or anything like that. It's a really impressive display. Now, we also understand that those who are getting this type of display Just for reference point, like the 114-inch model is $150,000. We understand that that might not be a soundbar customer, right? So we've built this really cool feature in with our Arena Sound system that's going to allow you to use the TV as a center channel in your existing setup. And it's got a 120-watt audio system. So even without additional speakers, it's going to sound pretty great. But integrate it with your existing home theater, man, it's awesome. This is also the only TV outside of the frame which gets the access to the art mode, so you can actually pull up, Van Gogh or the Mona Lisa, or all sorts of things from a variety of partners around the world. Lastly, this is the only TV that's active in our lineup that allows you to do 4 simultaneous HDMI inputs at the same time. We do have multi-view built into other TVs. However, you can only do 1 HDMI, and then you can mirror your phone on the other screen. This actually allows you to do 4 live HDMIs at the exact same time. So some nice little perks with our micro LED display. Now we're going to step into a virtual living room. Let's think about where people are watching your TV. Now, by and large, most people, not all people, but most people are watching in the living room. And what do we notice about most living rooms? Well, they tend to have a ton of ambient light. They tend to be the brightest room in the home. Well, fortunately here at Samsung, we have a product family that's designed with that in mind, and that's our Neo QLED family. With Neo QLED, you're going to have a whole mess of mini LEDs on the backlight that are going to give you a really, really fantastic picture. Now, the advantage here is, let's say you were comparing a Neo QLED model to something like the Q80, which is also a full array TV. The LEDs that are in a Q80 are roughly the size of a shirt button. So if you're wearing a button-down shirt, take a look at your shirt button. That's about how big those LEDs are. The LEDs that are in a Neo QLED TV are roughly the size of a grain of sand. They are tiny. So we get 2 big advantages there. The first is we can add more LEDs, which means more brightness, but it also means better black levels. So it's brighter and darker at the same time. What does that end up meaning? Well, ultimately, you're going to have better HDR expression. So it's a really, really awesome thing to think about. You have this TV that can now thrive in this environment with super bright lighting, but you're not missing those details in the dark. On top of that, we've got a really powerful processor. Every single Neo QLED TV is going to have our NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor in our 4K models. That's going to have 20 different neural networks that upscale everything to 4K. And so I want you to think about it this way. Let's imagine for a second that we're all going on a trip to an awesome 5-star restaurant. Maybe it's Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, right? We hear Gordon Ramsay's in town. We're like, all right, we booked this months in advance. We're going to have that dining experience. We walk in, Mr. Ramsay is there. Hello, welcome to Hell's Kitchen. All right, so we sit down, and well, do you think Gordon is shuffling back to the kitchen to do all the cooking himself? No, he has a staff. He has a team of people that work together to create this 5-star experience. That's what we're doing with this processor and the 20 different neural networks that are built into it. Every single one has a different responsibility, from edge restoration to noise reduction to texture creation to audio rendering. Even some of the gaming experiences are based on our neural networks. So they all work together to give you the best experience possible. Then when you jump up to our 8K TVs, you're going to get even more neural networks. We go from 20 neural networks in our 4K TVs. When you jump up to 8K, we're going to talk about all the enhancements that you'll get. Everything from our 8K AI upscaling, AI motion enhancer, which is a really cool feature. So what AI Motion Enhancer does is it can detect fast-moving objects. Like if you're watching sports and there's a soccer ball or a baseball moving really quickly across the screen, you don't have to worry about that ball looking like it's stuttering or juddering across the screen. However, we're not going to give you that soap opera effect. What we can do is we can selectively render just the fast-moving objects. So that's the only area that you would notice anything that even resembles like that soap opera effect, where everything else is going to maintain that natural look. It's a really, really cool effect. We have AI sound features. We have AI optimization features. And, all of these are powered by 2 really, really incredible processors. In our QN800D, that's our entry-level 8K TV, we have 256 neural networks. So more than 10 times as many neural networks as our 4K TV. But when you jump up to the QN900D, you actually get 512 neural networks. It is the most powerful processor we've ever put in any consumer grade TV, period. It's actually a more powerful processor than what you'd even find in our micro LED display. It's a really, really powerful processor. But you're also going to have, of course, 8K resolution. You're going to have awesome refresh rates. So let's say you have somebody who is a PC gamer and they're like, hey, every frame counts. Well, the QN800D is going to do up to 165 frames a second. The QN900D can do up to 240 frames a second at 4K resolution. While there are other TVs out there that can do 240, they cut the resolution down to either 1080 or 1440. We're going to give you the full 4K resolution at 240 hertz. Now, in the 4K lineup, let's start with the QN85D. We have our NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor. That's going to have 20 different neural networks. Again, upscaling everything to 4K. That's going to be a 120 hertz refresh rate. But one thing I want to kind of put a pin in is that all 4 ports get that maximum bandwidth. So you're not limited to just 2, and you don't have to worry about one of those 2 being your ER port. Every single port on the TV is going to get you that 120 hertz refresh rate. You're also going to have Dolby Atmos right out of the box. However, it is going to be virtualized Dolby Atmos. There are no top firing speakers on the 85D. When you jump up to the 90D, now you're getting true Dolby Atmos with top firing speakers. You're going to get Real Depth Enhancer Pro. You get 144 hertz refresh rate, and you're going to get our anti-glare with ultra viewing angle. Jumping up to the QN95D, this one's kind of important. This is our CI exclusive model. It is not sold in any retail stores. You don't have to worry about price matching, because NFM or one of the big box stores decided to do an aggressive, price drop. You won't have to worry about that. The QN95D is only sold in this channel, and it's a really, really awesome TV. This actually has the same number of dimming zones as some of our 8K TVs, but it has a 4K panel. So it's by far our brightest 4K TV, our best contrast, most dimming zones. It's also one of our thinnest in the Neo QLED family. It's just about an inch thick with a perfectly flat back and no One Connect box. So something I wanted to call out there because I know that's got some mixed feelings about the One Connect box. All right, so let's talk about OLED. Yes.
Questions real quick.
Sure.
We got a lot going on here. Let me see here. Any plans to update? Where's it? Update the One Connect box.
I couldn't speak to the future size. So as a general statement, we can't talk about anything for 2025 because I'll be honest, we haven't seen anything yet. We typically won't find out until about a week or 2 before CES. So I honestly couldn't speak to any future products.
Okay. Anyway, thoughts to make IP integration, especially Wake on LAN, more reliable?
I'm glad that you brought that up. So we actually, just in 2024, we introduced a new feature called low power mode. So when you go into your settings menu, you're actually going to find a setting that says IP control. If you turn that on, that's actually going to leave the TV in a low power state. It's always going to be listening. So your IP commands, you don't have to worry about them sequencing, waiting for the power on, and then waiting for that other signal, hoping that they don't have a collision, hoping that they don't miss that signal. Just turn on low power mode by going into the menu, looking for that IP control, enabling that. Now, if you have an older model, beyond a 2024 model, let's say it's a 2022 or 23, there is a trick. You can actually turn on the Bixby voice assistant. It has to be a Q70 or higher. But if you turn on the Bixby voice assistant, let's be real, most people aren't going to say Bixby out loud, so they probably won't trigger it. But as long as you leave that on, that actually puts that TV into that low power state as well. So it'll respond a lot better to those IP commands.
It's really good question. It's more of a control question. Any improvements with control, such as RTI when controlling through IP? I guess this person has a time delay between power off and back on again.
So any control system questions, you'd want to reach out directly to one of your Samsung account managers. Again, I'm kind of the retail product specialist, so anything having to do with control systems, future products, anything like that, I won't be able to answer those questions. So I'll just kind of be proactive and throw that out there.
Have you, I got somebody here and 4 people liked it, so hopefully this isn't happening that often, had issues with Terrace TVs failing?
No, I will say this though. So Any terrace that is installed, particularly the older models, the LST-7T or LST-9T, one of the things that we do recommend in our guidelines, particularly with the LST-7T, you want to make sure it's always installed under an overhang, because IP55 does not mean waterproof. It means water resistant. And particularly if you live in an area that gets a lot of torrential rain, let's say the southeast, which unfortunately we've had some really awful weather there. There are going to be situations where if you have more than 30 minutes of water exposure, IP55 is not rated for that. IP56 will get you a little bit better protection. In fact, we'll talk about our IP56 enhancements, but you want to use a dust cover or make sure that it's always installed under an overhang for maximum protection.
Okay, for the answer. Why doesn't the QN900 have the attachments on the back of the One Connect box? Is there a reason for that?
So the QN900, I honestly couldn't tell you that. Not being a product engineer, I'm not sure that anybody on our team domestically could answer that. That's something we'd have to ask our engineers in Korea.
Okay, what connections do they have to support 240 hertz?
HDMI. So what will happen though is it is going to do it is going to turn on a type of compression. So you're going to get DSD, display stream compression. So as long as you're connected to a PC that can support 4K at 240 hertz, you're going to get that. It is going to compress the signal. Most people won't notice a difference at all. To the naked eye, it's going to still look amazing. But yeah, right now it's going to require a pretty high-end PC to push 240 at 4K.
Justin, you asked about warranties. We offer New Leaf extended warranties. So reach out to us about more information on extended warranties. Is the Ring doorbell integration still available?
Ring integration should still be live through SmartThings. Yeah, unless something has changed. I mean, there's always things changing, but as of the last time I looked, we do still have Ring integration through SmartThings.
Okay, one more. We'll let you keep going. I'll save the rest for the end. Is there any reason the CEC turned off by default?
I actually haven't run into that myself. I don't know if that's unique on some of the newer models. I've actually not noticed that, and even then, I couldn't answer that. So, some of these questions I can take them. We'll field them back to our teams in Korea or even our domestic engineers, and we'll see we can bounce that back over you, Mark, so you can share with all the participants.
Yeah. Okay. Some of these are about like new products that may or may not be coming out.
Real quick, I just want to address what Leonard has here. HDMI 2.1 caps at 4K 120. It only caps at 4K 120 uncompressed. So there's something called DSC, display stream compression, which will allow 4K at 240 over HDMI 2.1.
Okay. Yep. A couple more of these we'll just save for the end. Oh, let's give away a speaker, sound tower. How many years has Samsung been the #1 TV brand? First one answers that will win a sound tower. So go ahead and put that in the Q&A, and we'll get you a prize. So go ahead, Jonathan. Keep going. Thank you.
All right, let's keep on rolling. Our next category is going to be a very popular category. We are actually the fastest growing brand in this category in the US, the fastest growing OLED brand. So let's talk about the enhancements that we've made year over year and talk about all the changes in this year's lineup. So, when we first introduced our OLED TV back in 2022, the S95B, it was almost universally loved, but we got the same complaint from almost every reviewer. It's, hey, where are the extra sizes? Because we had one model, we only had two sizes, 55 and 65. People saying, hey, we want 77, we want 83. Well, last year we delivered. We split our lineup into two models. We have the S90 and S95. This year we're taking it a step further. We've got even more models, even more sizes. We're also improving our processor. So we have that new NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor as well. So let's talk about the biggest enhancement, though, in our flagship model, our OLED glare-free technology on the S95D. Now, this is a really, really cool feature. If you haven't seen it in person, it's really kind of impactful. I think when people first see it, it can be kind of jarring. They're not used to what they see. And I'll be honest, it's also something that has been polarizing for some because they're used to OLED TVs looking a certain way. And I had one gentleman, I was doing a training, he said, I just can't stand the way the TV looks when it's off. It looks like it's hazy. And I'm like, well, you're not watching the TV when it's off, so don't worry about that. Worry about what it looks like when it's on. You're still going to get that silky, wet look that OLED TVs are known for, but you're getting it without all the glare. And in fact, there's actually been some independent reviews. I want to say, I believe it was Digital Trends that did this like rundown of different environments, different viewing environments. He took an S95D to a garage, opened the door wide open, and you were still able to watch it perfectly clear, even in basically direct sunlight, where some of the other TVs that it was up against had significantly more glare and a little bit more challenging to watch. And so what's the purpose here? Where ultimately, for the last couple of years, Samsung's position was that OLED was not the best choice for bright rooms because of a number of factors. They weren't as bright and they had a lot of glare. Well, that's kind of a thing of the past with the S95D. Now it's super bright and you don't have to worry about glare. On top of that, let's say you don't like the OLED glare-free finish. You can still get a picture that's almost at the same level as the S95D with the S90D, which does have the glossy OLED screen and by all means, it is one of the best values in TV out there. In fact, ratings.com has listed it as their best overall TV 2 years in a row, the S90C and S90D. Now, the S85D is a great option for anybody that wants a more entry-level model, and we'll talk about some of the differences between the S85, 90, and 95. So starting with the S85, you are going to get an OLED panel. You're going to get our NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor, but it is a 120 hertz refresh rate. Jumping up to the S90D, now you're going to have 144 hertz, excuse me, and sizes ranging anywhere from 42 inches all the way up to 83 inches. Jumping up to that S95D, well, now you're going to get our OLED glare-free display. It's extremely thin thanks to that 1 centimeter thick body that we call Infinity One design. And you're going to get a little bit better gaming performance too with FreeSync Premium Pro. So you're going to be able to use that fast refresh rate in addition to HDR at the same time. So very, very quickly, one of the things I want to touch on is QLED. Ultimately, QLED is a great option for anybody that is seeking a TV for a secondary room, maybe a guest room. Just do a quick step up. What do we get when we start with a Q60 and we jump up to a 70 and an 80? So Q60, super straightforward. This is going to have that quantum dot technology. Ultimately, quantum dots mean you're going to get over 1 billion shades of color, and you don't have to worry about them fading as the TV gets brighter. TVs that don't have quantum dot or some other color enhancement technology, as the TV gets brighter, they emit more white light. When you mix white light in with your color, well, the color starts to look faded. You'll never run into that on a QLED TV because there's no white LEDs in a QLED TV. They're all blue, and we actually use these little crystals in those quantum dots to create them, to convert those colors to red and green. So we have blue, red, and green being naturally emitted by the TV. So over 1 billion shades of color. Now, the Q60 is a 60 hertz panel. You can only do 60 frames a second. So great for everyday watching. However, if you are a gamer, you're going to want to step up to the Q70. That's where our 120 hertz refresh rate is going to start, and you're going to get it on all 4 HDMI ports. Again, you don't have to worry about playing HDMI roulette or getting a switch. You're going to be able to use it on all 4 HDMI ports. Jumping up to the Q80, you go from our dual LED edge-lit technology, which is on the 60 and the 70, and now you're getting direct full array technology. So you're going to have a full array display, which is pretty darn bright for what it is. And that's going to be available in sizes anywhere from 50 inches all the way up to 98 inches. Now, I'm going to add a little asterisk here because the 98-inch model is the carryover Q80C from last year. But it does get the all of the D-series models will have the new processor, the NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor. So you're going to get a little bit better upscaling in this year's models. So great question. So can you explain how Samsung's AI upscaling technology in their latest QLED models compares to traditional upscaling models? Absolutely. So one of the things that you're going to see that's different, let's say you were comparing our Q70, for example. That's where our AI upscaling is going to start. If you're comparing a Q60 and a Q70, the Q60 is going to use algorithmic-based upscaling. Everything is formulaic. It looks for certain patterns, and it just does what it's told. where AI is actually going to look for patterns. It's going to teach itself how to improve on these patterns over time. And then jumping up to the ones that have the NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor, now you're using neural networks, you're using machine learning. You're basically breaking that task down into all those different parts, right? So with neural network upscaling, every single neural network will have a different responsibility, from solely looking at edge restoration, texture creation, you know, all sorts of different little aspects of that picture quality. And those neural networks will work together kind of under that larger umbrella of AI-based upscaling. All right, so let's shift over to the frame. Now, with the frame, you know, I joked earlier, Samsung kind of created this lifestyle category, but frankly, I don't know who might have beat us to it. And in fact, the first Samsung lifestyle TV wasn't the frame. It was actually the Serif, which we saw at the beginning of the presentation. However, the Serif is more of a niche kind of model. We don't see a whole lot of them here in the United States, but the frame, this is the one that really took off like gangbusters. Let's talk about what you get with the frame TV, because we do realize there's new competitors in this category, but you know, I think we're pretty, we're not really too worried about that. I think we're pretty great in a great position with the frame TV. So ultimately, TV when it's on, art when it's off, right? How do you hide that TV in plain sight? Well, you turn it into art. Well, our glare-free display was probably the biggest enhancement to the frame since we launched it back in 2018. So the glare-free display made such a huge difference, not just from a TV viewing standpoint, because it's great to get rid of the glare, but it truly brings your artwork to life. If you haven't seen it in person, you know, I encourage you, check it out. This is one of those things when we have this at trade shows, we have to have someone with a magic eraser. By the way, if you ever have to get fingerprints off of a frame TV, use a dry magic eraser and rub it very, very lightly. That is actually the official Samsung response. Dry magic eraser, rub lightly over those fingerprints because it's inevitable. It's going to happen on a frame TV, and you don't just want to use anything wet. It's just going to smear that stuff around. So now, what do you get with the frame that others don't have? Well, you're going to get access to our art store with over 2,500 works of art from a variety of partners, including the Van Gogh Museum, the Met, the Louvre. Like we've got real partnerships and real curated selections. Excuse me. Let's say your client doesn't want to pay for access to the art store, just $5 a month. Well, they don't have to. You're also going to have access to our art store streams right out of the box. You don't have to set anything up. You can automatically turn on art store streams, and it's going to have a curated selection. It changes so often, and every 5 to 6 minutes, it'll cycle through 20 to 30 different works of art. So by the end of the year, you would have seen hundreds of works of art. You would have been able to decide, hey, there's value in the art store. I really want to, lock in this particular piece of art. You're going to be able to do that on the Frame TV. Again, $5 a month for the art store. Otherwise, leave the streams on. It's still going to look pretty awesome. Now, customization goes beyond just art, right? You have the ability to change the frame out. We make a white, teak, brown, and sand gold metallic bezel. And of course, we have our wonderful partners at Deco TV Frames that have 16 premium, traditional, and contemporary different styles that you can easily attach to your frame TV. Now, if you wanted to upload your own artwork, guess what? You can do that too. You can either use a USB drive to do it or use SmartThings. Now, one thing I will say, if you're doing it through SmartThings, don't try to do a batch upload. Just do one photo at a time. Otherwise, it kind of bogs things down. All right, so let's shift over to the Terrace. I know we had some questions about it a little bit earlier. So the Terrace gets some big enhancements this year. So these have been kind of slowly cycling out. So what you'll notice is with the current models of the Terrace, the model numbers have changed. You're going to see LST7C or LST7D. If you see C or D, that's the new Terrace. That's the one that has the IP56 rating. It's going to have all of the new Tizen operating system, including the Samsung TV Plus built in and Gaming Hub. Same thing for the LST9C and 9D. Now, there is a big enhancement, though, with the full sun models. It's going to be the LST9 series. So the LST9 series in past years, if we were to look back to the 2020 model, it only had a 60 hertz refresh rate. We did that, just to kind of manage the thermal performance. We knew that if it was going to be in full sun, we wanted to make sure that we could keep the thermals low. So we kept the refresh rate down to 60 hertz. Well, this year, or I should say late last year, when we launched the new full sun model, it's now 120 hertz. And that's because both of these got the upgrade to mini LED. Mini LED is a lot more power efficient. It's going to run a lot cooler. So we were able to move both of them to that 120 hertz refresh rate. Now, I do get this question a lot. You'll see a 2000 nit brightness rating on the partial shade model, and you'll see 1500 on the full sun model. Why is the full sun dimmer? Again, it's going to come down to kind of that thermal performance. But one thing to keep in mind is that brightness ratings are logarithmic, which means it's not a linear curve, right? It's going to be a little bit more gentle. So the difference between 1500 and 2000 is not going to be that noticeable. And I would argue, if you look at a LST 9C or LST 9D in full sun, you'd never know that it's 1500 nits. It's still pretty darn bright. So let's shift over to the freestyle for just a second. I'm only going to touch on this for a second because we've got a lot more stuff to talk about with projectors. I don't want to sleep on the freestyle, though. This is actually the best-selling portable projector in the United States, according to Circana, and we continue to kind of win here. What's lovely about this is you can project up to a 100-inch image in mere seconds. It automatically keystones, not just vertically, but horizontally, too. So even if you're projecting off angle, you'll get that perfect 16:9 rectangle with really, really easy setup. Now, let's say you want something that's a little bit more of a home theater style projector. Well, just within the last few weeks, we launched the brand new version of the Premiere. Now, the Premiere is kind of due for an upgrade, right? It's been out since 2021. What did we do differently with this year's Premiere? Well, I'd like to kind of put everything into three different buckets. This year, it is going to be brighter, it's going to be easier, and it's going to be smarter. So let's start by talking about brighter, because ultimately, if you're talking about an ultra short throw or any type of projector, brightness is king. So let's talk about it being brighter. So the Premiere 7, which is our single laser model, by the way, it's a single laser model, but it does have a 4-color wheel. So we actually get 100% coverage of the DCI-P3 color spectrum. That's going to go from 2,200 ANSI lumens to 2,500 ISO lumens. You're going to see not just Samsung, but the industry as a whole has started to move over to ISO measurements for brightness. And that's because it's actually more accurate. You're measuring more areas of the screen, so you get a little bit better idea of just how bright it's going to be. The Premiere 9 gets a noticeable bump too. You're going from 2,800 ANSI lumens all the way up to 3,450 ISO lumens. And the color coverage, well, forget it. This thing has, again, triple lasers, so we can create all kinds of colors. We're actually going to beat the DCI-P3 color spectrum, 154% coverage. We more than cover the BT 2020 color spectrum as well, and that's going to max out at a 130-inch display. So very bright, very colorful. But let's say you're using it in an environment that's also very bright. Well, if you're in a very bright environment, that often affects color performance and contrast performance on projectors. We've got this really cool new feature called Vision Boost. So let's say you're using it in that bright spot. I'm going to go ahead and circle this right here. So this area right here, well, we can turn on Vision Boost and it's automatically going to improve the contrast. It's going to give you a little bit more depth and richness to the picture based on what the ambient light is like. It doesn't automatically, you can turn this on and off if you want, but if you leave the feature on, it'll only turn on Vision Boost when it's in that environment that has that extra light. So you don't have to worry about messing with the settings. Let's talk about it being easier to set up. Now, this is kind of a big deal. Now, there's two parties to this particular feature, right? So you're going to have the ability to scale and move the screen. Now, some folks, when they set up a ultra short throw projector, they want to set it up and they want it to be pixel perfect. You can still do that. You have all the manual adjustments. You can still adjust the legs. You can still adjust the screen. Some people may not be as picky. Some people may want quick and easy setup. If you want that quick and easy setup, we're going to give you quick and easy setup. You're going to have the ability to scale the screen down all the way down to as small as 50% of its original size, its native size, and you can move the screen around within its light field. You're also going to have the ability, this isn't live yet, this is actually launching very soon, using SmartThings and your smartphone, you're going to be able to do mobile keystone. So maybe you've got it mostly set up and there's just like this weird angle, maybe it's an imperfection in the way your screen is hung, or if you're projecting on a painted wall, maybe you got the projector paint on there. and there's a weird divot in the wall or something like that, well, you're going to be able to digitally correct it using our mobile keystone feature within SmartThings. So again, for those that want the pixel perfect calibration, you can still do that. But for those that want just that quick and easy setup, we got you. So one other thing, let's talk about it being smarter. So our new projectors now have the brand new Tizen OS with that game hub built in, which we just talked about a few moments ago. And you're going to have the SmartThings hub built in. So if you want to control your smart home devices, you can do that from your projector. Another really cool thing, it actually has Alexa built in that's always on, always listening, even when the screen is off. So you could shout out to the projector, turn on Stranger Things on Netflix, and it'll actually trigger an automation that you might have pre-programmed to raise your screen and start watching whatever you want to watch. So that's a really nifty feature that's built right in. Let's talk about Samsung and how we are approaching gaming, because ultimately gamers, one of the things that we see is they're willing to spend a little bit more for the things that help their competitive advantages. So we mentioned it a little bit earlier. Let's talk about refresh rate. Again, the QN900D, that 240 hertz refresh rate. QN800D at 165. You got the QN90, S90, and S95 all at 144 hertz, and the Q80 and Q70 at 120 hertz. So no slouch when it comes to fast refresh rates within our lineup. But we've got other things that also enhance the gaming experience, like our game bar. So gamers oftentimes want quick access to see, how many frames per second am I running? Is my PC being optimized? Is my variable refresh rate on? Maybe they're gaming late at night. The kids have to go to bed, and they don't want to use the sound bar with the roar of an engine or the roar of a crowd as they're playing FIFA. They can quickly and easily pull up the game bar and move their audio into their Galaxy Buds with just a couple clicks. You also have this really cool feature called mini-map auto detection. So let's say you're playing something like a first-person shooter or a like a dungeon that has those little mini-maps on there. So if you're playing, your favorite dungeon game, well, now you can see where your teammates are at or where your competitors are at. You can actually use AI to determine where that box is, and it can blow it up on screen for you. If you have another Samsung device, let's say a Galaxy Tab or a Samsung Galaxy phone, or even one of our smart monitors, you can cast just that box onto a separate screen, and now you get a really nice big display. You can see where everything's at in your game. Just get a little bit of an advantage with the mini-map zoom. Hue Light Sync support, this is also kind of a big deal. So for anybody that has invested in the Philips Hue system, one of the Achilles heels to Philips Hue is if you're using it for gaming and you're using an HDMI capture box, it only runs at 60 frames a second. So if you've got an Xbox Series X or you've got a PS5 and you want to take advantage of that 4K 120, you can't do it if you're using a Philips Hue HDMI sync box. We actually have it built directly into the TV. You actually plug your lights directly into the USB port on the TV. It'll work not just with the native apps that are on the TV, but anything that goes into your HDMI. So now, it doesn't matter if you're going 120 hertz, 144 hertz, we're going to be able to sync with everything, and you don't lose that 60 frames a second. So that's a nice little advantage built into every Samsung TV. We also have AI auto game mode. So let's talk about that dungeon game for just a second, right? Those tend to happen in very dark areas. Sometimes you got people sneaking up on you from the shadows. Well, we can use the AI that's built into the TV from the Q80 and higher, everything that has our MQ4 AI Gen 2 processor. It can actually detect that. It can see, hey, you're in a dark area. I'm going to raise the black levels. I'm going to give you a little bit better view of what's in the shadows. Well, then you switch over to something like FIFA or Forza, which is super bright, right? And now what you want to do is you want to make your connection as fast as possible. So the TV will turn off all the superfluous processing features, and it's going to lower your input lag to give you the best input lag available to improve your competitive advantage. And you didn't have to do anything. It's all built into AI Auto Game Mode. Now, if you want to manually manage all that stuff, hey, it's there. But I kind of like the idea of letting AI do all the heavy lifting for me. Now, having great displays is awesome, but I'm a big, big believer that audio is 51% of my experience. And the reason that I say that is, think about the last big blockbuster movie that you saw, in theaters. You would go in there, maybe it's an IMAX movie, and the projection is just awesome, right? Everything looks stunning, but the audio, if it sounds like a scratchy record or a broken AM radio, I don't know about y'all, but I'd want my money back. So one of the things that you're going to get with Samsung Q series soundbars is that premium audio experience. And in fact, this year, the Q990D gets an upgrade that people have been asking for almost 3 years. Now, our Q990 series has been one of the most awarded soundbars out there. It's been rated best soundbar by ratings.com several years in a row, cnet.com, ZDNet. Like, there's tons of publications that you'll find this being rated as one of the best soundbars out there. But the number one knock on it every year, year after year, was there's no 120 hertz pass-through. It's 4K 60 hertz. That's kind of a bummer. Well, this year we finally caught up to that, and now you have 4K 120 hertz pass-through. So there's no excuse to not have a Q990D hooked up, to your favorite gaming console. You're going to be able to max out your connection and still get that 11.1.4 channel audio, literally being trapped in that dome of sound. Now, why is this important? Well, ultimately, when you think about a sound bar, you think about, some people are worried that you're not going to get that same kind of spatial sound. We've got a lot of drivers on this thing. We have drivers that face sideways, some that face in the corners. You can see all the drivers that we have that face forward. And then your rear speakers, they face forward, sideways, and upwards. So you've got audio bouncing all over the place. And it's a nice wide soundbar too. So you get pretty good stereo separation, even though it's a soundbar. And one of the things that people have said to us, in surveys, we found that 65% of shoppers say that they're primarily using their soundbar to watch movies. That being said, we're also keeping music lovers in mind. So we'll talk about some music enhancements in just a few moments. I want to talk about Q Symphony for a few moments. Now, we've had Q Symphony. This is our 5th year with Q Symphony. We actually beat every other manufacturer out there by 2 years. So, there are other companies that are doing these sound sync or sound blending technologies. We've been doing it longer than anybody. And with Q Symphony 3.0, we've got some really nifty features built in. So I'll tell you a personal story just real quick. So I used to have a Q990B, and with the Q990B, didn't have this year's Q Symphony 3.0. I hooked up the rear speakers. My wife and I were watching something, and 2-3 days later, she's like, "Hon, are you sure these are hooked up properly? Like, they're not doing anything back there. I never hear them play anything." And I didn't want to be the actually guy, but I had to kind of be the actually guy. And I told her, well, they only play audio when they're told to play audio. I got to be watching something that's, in 5.1 or in Dolby Atmos for us to really take advantage of it. So Q990C comes out last year, which has Q Symphony 3.0. Now the D series, which also has it. And what it does is it will actually look for ways to upmix into those rear channels and those height channels if you put it in surround mode. Now, if you are listening to a DTS-X or Dolby Atmos track, that overrides that surround mode, and it's only going to listen to the Atmos or DTS-X instructions. But if you aren't listening to something that's Atmos or DTS-X, our upmixing is top notch. What we're actually doing is we're using the neural processing unit in the TV, so one of those neural networks, to analyze the scene, determine what type of spatial sound effects are, let's say like rain or crowd noise, that sort of thing, and we're going to upmix that into those channels to really put those rear speakers to work. And it works really, really well. Now, another new feature is private rear sound. Let's say it's late at night. I've got a 3-year-old and I have a 9-month-old now. And so there are times where I don't want to have my soundbar booming. I don't want to have my subwoofer rumbling. So I can actually turn on private rear sound. And all that's going to do is enable those rear speakers to act as my sole speakers. So now I can hear the audio. It's right next to me. I don't have to worry about messing with the volume up and down, or this rumble is going to wake up the kids. Don't have to worry about it. That private rear sound is going to really make things a little bit easier. Now, for music lovers traditionally have not looked towards soundbars. We want to kind of put that to rest. We've got a couple different features that we've rolled out this year that are hopefully going to kind of push people in that direction. So sound grouping is something that's brand new. In previous years, if you were listening to music on a Q990C or a Q990B, your music was being upmixed into the rear channels. It wasn't true stereo. Now you can actually turn on sound grouping and get true stereo. It's just going to basically echo whatever's in the left and right channel. You're going to get the exact same audio out of those rear speakers. We've introduced Dolby Atmos music. We've introduced Tidal Connect, which has actually been here for a couple of years, but Tidal Connect now supports Dolby Atmos music and lossless audio. And the biggest thing of all, this year, it's also going to be Roon tested. So you're going to have that ability to use, excuse me, a Roon music server. Now, from a smart experience standpoint, it's important that, a lot of consumers have voiced they want to have audio products that work well with their other smart devices. Well, every single Samsung soundbar from the QS730 and higher is going to have support for all of these things. You're going to have Chromecast built in. You're going to have AirPlay 2 built in. You're going to work with Google Home. The QS730 will work with Alexa, but everything from the 800 and up actually has Alexa built right in. So you've got tons and tons of ways to use these. And something that's new in 2024, all of these can now be used in group play or sound grouping. So if you do it through SmartThings, you're going to have pretty low latency. If you do it through Chromecast, you might experience a little bit more latency. I really don't recommend doing it through AirPlay. You can do up to 10 devices on AirPlay, but AirPlay's latency, the protocol itself doesn't have great performance. So just throwing that out there. It does work, but you'd want to make sure that the audio is in different rooms. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of crosstalk. It might not be ideal. But use SmartThings, and it sounds pretty darn good. So let's talk about the lineup. We're going to move through it pretty quickly as we're kind of getting up against time. Let's start.
We've got like two minutes, Jonathan.
What's that?
2 or 3 minutes.
Oh yeah. That shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
All right. So the Q600C, you're going to have a 3.1.2 channel audio system, 6.5-inch sub. What do you get when you jump up to the 700 series? Well, you're getting a bigger sub. You're going to go up to an 8-inch subwoofer, and your up-firing drivers are going to be a little bit more powerful, so better Dolby Atmos capabilities. Jumping up to the 800, now you're getting a 5.1.2 channel system, so you have true side-firing drivers on that 800. Jumping up to the 910, now you're going to have, I don't know why my animations aren't working here, now you're going to have 9.1.2 channels. So you get true surround with 2 up-firing channels and that 8-inch subwoofer. But of course, the king of all audio in our lineup is the Q990, that 11.1.4 channels. Now, let's say you have a little bit more discrete area where you want to have a soundbar that doesn't stick out too much. Maybe you want to mount it underneath a frame. Well, that's where our S800 series is going to come in. Now, this is available in black or white. The white one is just the S801, but it's the exact same soundbar. 3.1.2 channels, 6.5-inch wireless subwoofer. This thing is 1.5 inches tall, 1.5 inches deep. It is extremely slim. So when you mount this under a frame TV, it's practically invisible. But it's a great way to really bring premium audio into those spaces, much like our music frame. So another way that you could bring premium audio into the space with the frame TV, pair it up with a couple of music frames. So, excuse me, the music frame can be used in a couple different ways. You can either mount it to the wall, or you can use it as a tabletop speaker. Now, this is not a digital picture frame. This is a real picture frame. You can actually pull that panel off. You can put your printed photos in there. Has an 8x8 viewable area, and you can change that art panel out. You also have the ability to add on these white bezels as well. So if you wanted to customize it with the white bezels, you can do that. Really awesome speaker. Now, one other thing about this, it's no slouch when it comes to audio performance. You've got 2 tweeters, 2 mid drivers, and 2 5-inch woofers on here. And those little 5-inch woofers, because you got 2 of them and you've got passive radiators there, it really has a lot more bass than you might expect for something that's only 2 inches thick. This thing can absolutely fill a room with sound. And man, when it comes to the sound, let's talk about what it's capable of. Right, you've got a couple different ways that you can use it. You can use it as an independent speaker, or you can actually use it with Q Symphony in your home theater environment. So let's say you're pairing it up with a frame TV or any other 2024 TV. If you use just one with the TV, you can use it as a subwoofer. If you use 2 together, you can use it as a left and right stereo pair, or you can even move them behind your viewing area, use the TV as your main speaker, and use the 2 music frames as your rear speakers, and you have an invisible 4.0 channel audio system. So you get full surround, and it's totally discreet. So A lot of versatility there. Now, for myself, I actually use mine in my kitchen. I had a problem with my son playing with my Google Home Hub and playing videos on there all the time. So I said, let's get rid of the video screen. Let's use this. It's a great Alexa device. So I can play all of my Amazon music and my Tidal totally lossless. Again, also supports room, supports 24-bit audio at 96 kilohertz. This thing has some real audio chops. So if you haven't checked out Music Brain, I encourage you to try it out. It's a really, really awesome speaker. All right,
we're gonna have those in our locations as well, so we'll be able to demo that for you. If you want to check out those, I saw it at CES. It's pretty impressive. Like, can you can you pair two of those together for stereo?
So you can do them in a speaker group. So if they're in your SmartThings account, you can actually do up to 5 of them together. Each one actually already is stereo, so you're going to have a left and right channel. If you do 2 of them together, I'll have to play with it in SmartThings. I'm not sure if it allows me to designate it as a dedicated left and dedicated right. As of like a month ago, you couldn't, but I'll have to play with it. They're always introducing new features.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Really appreciate your time today, and thank you everybody for joining. Very impactful. We also just make sure you guys check out the Samsung portal for warranty and repairs. It's the Dealer Service Solutions portal. We have that on our website on their the Samsung vendor page. Be very easy for you guys as far as warranty requests. You can monitor those repairs. I would highly encourage everybody to sign up for that. That's right on our dealer website. Go to the Samsung page and you can sign up for it there. But really appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.